everyone. This is ACDC, Araceli, and Colette, helping you with a dynamic change. My name is Araceli, and I'm a transition wealth advisor. I work mostly with professional women to rearrange their finances. One of the things that we do in life is we make money, but we need to learn how to manage it. And today we have a great episode for that for young adults. So Colette, can you tell me who you are?
Yes, of course, always. Hi, everybody. My name is Colette Rava. I'm a real estate broker and investor in the GTA. I help anybody West End, like I'm in Mississauga, but anywhere, Etobicoke, Mississauga, Brampton, Burlington. Do I have to keep going? You know what I mean. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We really have a good show because we like to talk about people, especially in the similar demographic as us, where last week we talked about being a sandwich generation. This week we're talking about having our adult kids, or they're becoming adults and they want to start saving. Hopefully they've already started saving, but as parents and as financial, like Araceli, financial advisor, we want to guide these young people into thinking bigger. So how many times do you have to hear it in the news about how are these kids going to afford to buy a house or to live and all this stuff? So I still think it's possible. I still think that there's a way to save, especially if you want to do one step at a time. Get into a condo, it's still very attainable.
Mhm.
So that's what we're going to talk about. So there's hopefully, if you have a younger person in your life, not a baby, young adult in your life that does want to save, that they do want to have a property in the future, or just something big anyway. Like it doesn't have to be a home, but just how do they save money? Because you see these kids going to Starbucks. I'm talking about my own kids. Starbucks, Takeout, Uber Eats, all these expenses that we didn't have these choices, right? When we were kids or young adults, like we went out to, after school or after work with our friends, maybe once a week, but really we didn't have all these choices. And I think that's the hard part with young people today, is that they just want to buy, look at online shopping. We didn't have that either.
Yeah.
Right? So to spend is easy. Oh my gosh. And debit cards, there's no cash. You don't feel the cash in your hands leaving your hand anymore.
Yeah.
So we know there's a problem. So hopefully with this show, we'll teach you a couple
Yeah,
tricks.
absolutely. And you know what? One of the things that we encounter, and I encounter a lot with my clients and people that I know that they're in our age demographics, they have younger children living with them. And I says, well, they have to be here because they just started working. They don't have a lot of money. They have to buy a car because their work is far. Some of them are able to work from home, but not everybody is in that boat.
True.
So the thing that I really want to emphasize is that finances are the basics of it is that you have to spend less money than what you make. And for children that they are, and I'm talking about somebody in like 18 to maybe 25, 26 years old range, that they're still at home, that they're still single. They probably are living in the basement or in a room in the house of their parents. And these children, if you have that choice, I never did have that choice, right? But if you do have that choice, that is basically your opportunity to be able to save money. And if you don't have to buy a house, totally understandable, but save the money because that will give you options later on in life, especially when you want to move on to the next step of life. So the things that I can see the progression is like you get a job. The next thing that you need a car, right? And
Yeah.
now you want to save money because now you start dating and maybe you want to get married, right? So all of these things, guess what? All of them require money, right? And that's what it's important for you to take advantage of that time that you have, like, and also look at how long you want to be with your parents before you move on into being independent, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, sorry, there's just a couple little noise outside. Um, That's why I muted myself for a second. Speaking for myself, so I have two kids here. They're both in school. So, and one is working, one is not. So I'm not asking them for any rent.
Mhm.
But the older one, she actually moved out. So she was paying with somebody. So let's say, let's make the number easy. So let's say $1,000 a month she was paying in half of her rent and half of the utilities. $1,000 a month is not a lot of money in the GTA if you know rentals and if you know properties. So it's really quite to some people, $1,000 a month is a lot of money. And this is not even living by yourself. This is with a boyfriend or girlfriend or a roommate. So $1,000 a month, if you can save instead of saying, okay, I'm going to go and take that money and put it to rent, then it's gone. If you can save $1,000 a month. So my daughter, when she moved back, I'm expecting her to save $1,000 a month, but then things change too. She might not work as much because now, it's after September. She's back to school. I want her to really focus more on school than on work. So then what happens? She probably doesn't have as much income coming in. So let's just say it's $500 a month that she can save.
Mhm.
That's still $500 a month. So you do the math. I
That's
don't have
six
a calculator.
thousand dollars a year. If you're able to
Thank
save
you.
$1,000 a month, it's $12,000 a year. And for
Right. And
people
half
that
of
they
that.
already have a full-time job, right? I have actually a couple friends of mine that they have two young adults in their 20s, and both of them are working good jobs, right? And they're, in the higher income range, and they're still living at home, not paying for anything, not even for food, right? So that is an amazing savings. And this is, I think that sometimes we don't see what we have in front of us until it's gone, right? But if you can imagine that you had to pay rent, that there's no way out. Like if you
Right.
don't pay the rent, you're going to get kicked out, right?
Right.
You have no place to live. Then you will find those $1,000 or whatever money it is that a rent is. You will find it somewhere. You will work more. You will, take overtime or spend less in other things in order for you to save that money. And this is basically how you have to be in regards to your savings. Put it
Right.
as a priority because this is something that it's not reversible. And what I mean by that is you turn around and you're 40 and now I said, oh, I should save that money, right?
Right.
And now when
Well,
you need it, and the thing
yeah.
is things get more complicated as you go along because you get a girlfriend or a boyfriend and now you want to get married. So now you have to spend money. And if you have to put on a credit card and now nobody's helping you with it, and now moving into an apartment on your own, now you have the rent, mortgage, whatever, utilities, phone, internet, everything else. Maybe you are getting a baby. And that is kind of like the end, the beginning of the end because it doesn't get better. You're going to need more and more money. So take advantage of this time. Like if you plan to be living with your parents for 2, 3 years, that is an amazing amount of money that you could put away, right? So,
Right, exactly. Sorry, it's a little loud in my house today. Well, that's it. So, like, that's part of the problem with living with, young people in your house. It's noisy all the time. So, excuse me if you hear too much background noise. Anyway, I agree with you 100%. I think the hard thing for young people, if I can speak for my own kids, is that they actually don't see the need to save because they think, oh, I'm never gonna, I can't imagine ever being able to buy a house or to, live financially free because it's not something that they even imagine it's possible. So I think that's the really hard
yeah,
part with seeing the young kids in my life, that they just want to live day to day and not have the pressure of saying, oh, I have to save money, and oh, I have to
yeah,
have this pressure of whatever. Not that we didn't have that too. We still have that in our lives where, can
absolutely.
we, yeah, can, especially with COVID, I think that was a big eye opener for a lot of people too. And you know what? That's actually a really good thing that's happened where I've heard from other people who have kids my age or their kids are in their 20s, and even in their 30s. because of COVID, they were laid off and they didn't have a choice. They had to move back home. Or they weren't laid off and they just moved back home because they were lonely. They didn't want to be alone through this pandemic, or they wanted to take care of their parents or have that kind of, community again with their family. So really, that's actually, I think that's a really positive thing that's happened with COVID, that families have come together and you really appreciate them more. I hope they appreciate the space more because on both sides. And that was the interesting thing. My daughter moved out. She moved back in, not because of COVID, just because school started and she didn't want to worry about rent. But to think about, having, here I am, possibly an empty nester in a few years. And then to have my kids come back, even though, they're noisy and they're messy, but at least I feel like I've extended, it's more of a win-win situation. They understand that the door is always open for them, but then I understand, which I didn't realize before, that it's actually nice to have people in the house, and the house is alive.
Of course, it's companionship, right? Companionship. But at the end of the day, kids grow up and they want their own life. They are not going to be there with you, right?
Yes, and I want them to have their own life. Don't get me wrong. I don't want them here forever.
Yeah.
But at least for us to sit down and have a conversation. And this is the other thing too with parents. So all the parents out there, they don't want to hear from you. Like, they're not going to listen to you. They'll listen to somebody else, because that's just how kids are. So if the information comes from me and saying, hey, you should save 30%, what do you think? How much should people generally save? 30% of their income?
Well, I can tell you what it was before, right?
Yeah.
If you go back to the 70s, the proportion of what things cost then that it costs now allowed in the 70s or before that, you had two people in the house, most likely one of the spouses will be home taking care of the kids in the house. The other one will be the breadwinner, and they would still save about 20%. They have about 20% of disposable income. But have things progressed into the economy that we have today, with houses are really kind of out of reach, food is going crazy, gas, all of the necessities that we, have to buy every day.
Right.
Things are becoming less, and now we have two people working in the house and kind of barely making
right.
it.
And incomes are not raising. I mean, this has been
not
for the last 30 years.
Yeah, proportionally, they haven't gone as far as the real estate has gone up, right?
Well, no, I think inflation in general, not just real estate, but inflation in general, we all can agree on that taxes go up every year, mortgages go up, well, maybe not every year, but the cost of borrowing or rent is always going up every year. I was looking at somebody's rent. There are some still, like, the people that are renting and very, very cheap for like the last, let's say they've been in an apartment for 30 years. Yeah, they still have cheap rent. If you can, get in one of those apartments 30 years, the same kind of rent that was 30 years ago. Okay, fine. But you don't think the landlord is suffering too for that? Yeah. So anyway, we're going to
absolutely
on track. But
so, yeah. What I wanted to say, we can't say to you right now, if you're a young adult, of course, you're not going to understand that economics that we had in the past. But now, what do we do? So the first thing that never changes is that every decision that you make, absolutely everything touches money. It's either it costs you money or it saves you money, right?
Right.
So if you are able to see, and I'm talking about this young adults, anything that you do, whether you go to Starbucks, Tim Hortons, or you don't go at all, you make the coffee at home, if that's what you like, right? That will cost you, it has a different amount that it's either save you money or cost you money.
It's either money in or money out. Yeah, we get that. So, and this is the thing, we always hear about, Starbucks and don't go crazy and Uber Eats and stuff like that. But the one thing that I really, and that's something that you taught me, was the other things that we don't really look at every day, like insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at your car insurance, look at your house insurance, obviously as a person who owns a house already, but even car insurance for a younger person, if there's a way to renegotiate, you know, your amount that you're paying on your car
Yeah,
insurance, or like, let's say you lease a car, you don't have to have the fanciest car. You don't have to have the highest lease. Go back, reduce your debt, reduce your payments every month, and then that way, whatever you, and then sit there with Araceli and make a plan to say, okay, I was paying $500 a month for whatever, let's say. Now I've reduced that amount to $350 a month. What are you going to do with the rest? That money should not be spent. It should be put somewhere else. And that's where Araceli
absolutely.
can come in and help you too with
Yeah,
it. So even though
exactly.
it doesn't sound like a lot, it's $150 difference, but still it's $150.
Yeah,
If you found $150 on the street, you'd pick it up, right?
yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
So just that
Absolutely.
a little bit at a time, you know, all these small things. You know what else that I found very helpful? Not going to the grocery store and buying whatever I felt like it. If I set down a food plan every month,
That's right. Yeah,
this is what I'm going to cook every month. This is what I'm going to eat every month. I'm not suffering. I'm
that's
not, you
right.
know, I'm still going to have whatever let's say I'll budget in one takeout a week, which I'm even less than that, but that's for me. So as a young person, I'm sure if I can do it, they can do it. They
Yeah,
can budget too.
absolutely. The, everything goes back to planning, whether it's financial planning, food planning, exercise
Right.
planning, everything. If you
Yeah.
have a plan, of course, it's never going to go exactly to the T. But if you have a plan, then you're going to save more because you go to the store and now you're buying exactly what you need, right?
Right.
In some
Right.
cases, you can, like milk, you need a cup of milk. You're not going to buy a cup of milk.
No,
But,
of course.
there are certain things,
But you're
especially
not going to go and
fruit
buy
and
the chips and the
vegetables.
pop and the
Yeah,
junk food and and this is on sale. That's the thing that kills me every
yeah,
time I go to the grocery store, because I have my plan, I have my list, and then what happens? I go and I see something on sale. Like, oh, well, you know what? If I buy it now, I'll save whatever $2, you know, next week or whenever I actually need
yeah.
it. So there are times that you can be a little flexible with things like that. But
Of course,
I'm
of
talking
course.
about not toilet paper to save on toilet paper this week instead of next week. I'm saying about like, oh, like the chips are on sale,
I
like,
know.
you know, stuff I
But
don't
you know what
need.
I found, Colette? That
Yeah.
now that we're actually able to do the grocery online and then
Yes.
pick it up, I'm actually spending less money because I'm not walking around the aisles, right? I have my list and I have
Oh, that's
my
great.
fridge, right? So I go there. Do I have this? Oh, I don't remember. So I go to the fridge and oh yeah, I still have,
Yeah, and then
right?
you end up buying
Instead
two.
of being at the store that you don't remember if you had something
Right.
or other, right?
Right. Right.
And to me, it's actually make my bill more, it's
Well, that's
smaller,
it.
right?
Right.
So
And that's the thing. You go to the store and you see beautiful produce and you think, "Oh my God, it looks great this week.
yeah,
I'm going to buy some." And then sure enough, nobody eats it because like that's not something that your family typically eats,
exactly.
right?
That's what exactly you go back to your plan. What are you planning
Right.
to eat? If you need two peppers, then just buy two peppers. Yeah,
Right,
right.
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
buy
and we're all
more.
guilty of that, aren't we? Like
Of course, yeah.
going bad. Yeah. Okay, so what else? What else is another way that we haven't thought
So
of yet
obviously
to
you
save
have
money?
rent. We talk about rent or mortgage or whatever you want to do. That is the biggest probably that you can possibly save on. Go
Right.
around, you can look at what is available, what you would be wanting to live in, whether it's with sharing accommodations or renting your own apartment. So what would that cost you? And if you start thinking that you have it today and that you have to pay it, then it's easier for you to save. The other
Right.
thing is if your parents are helping you with food, my goodness, that is a humongous savings, right?
Right. Oh
So
yeah.
that is, you know, I've seen families spending between 800, sometimes $1,500, depends of how many people are
A
in the
month?
home, a month.
Yeah.
And some people, they wanted to buy organic food. And that
Yeah.
is a huge difference.
I would say
So,
for family, so we're three. I would
yeah,
say I spend about like 800 a month
yeah,
on
that is
groceries.
pretty
That's not even
typical.
takeout.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's the thing. I have one daughter who's a vegan. She needs special
yeah.
protein and things like that. So and vitamins, like there's always things that will come up.
Yep.
One thing too that is near and dear to my heart, which I know you know, but I think this is a great tip for anybody who's young and they want to save. And I actually remember doing this. So when I was a young person, I moved out of my parents' house, and I had a very small apartment. But I knew I was going to get married in a few years. So my husband at the time and I, we were already seeing each other. We were very young, but we knew we were going to have this goal of one day living together. And he was working, I was working also, and to save money to buy a house. So that was one thing, but also another thing, when we started saving for the things to fill the house with, so furniture, pots and pans, those sort of
That's
things.
lots of
Even
money.
right, even though we're getting married, and I don't know if people still do like a registry anymore, if that's a thing. But
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, but the one thing that I remember when what we were doing was when we saw a piece of furniture that we really wanted and we knew it would fit, let's say not a sofa, but let's say a dining room or a mirror or things like that, that we really thought, okay, this is something that we wanted. We gave ourselves a budget at that point of very little, maybe $100 a month. And this was how many years ago now? Almost 30. No, yeah, almost, yeah, it was over 30 years ago. But still, it's the same concept. You can get secondhand furniture in a lot of places, especially online.
Yep.
You can wait at this point too to say, okay, my aesthetic, I have this design background, so I'm always thinking about overall aesthetic. I'm not just going to go and buy junk and throw it in a house. I'm thinking about, I would really, let's say, for example, I really like mid-century modern. But if I find something that is within my budget now, and it's a chair
Yep.
or something, that a side table, something that's small that can fit into my room now, I'm still living at home, let's say at this point, and I can buy something now, buy it. And don't hesitate to buy it, but obviously you don't want to fill your room full of stuff at this point. But think about it, if you see something that you really like and it's a one-off, go ahead and buy it, because that way you'll save in later and you'll actually not be house poor. You buy a house and it's a big empty house, what do you do?
Yeah.
So these are other ways to save during, throughout your lifetime. Like don't hesitate to look at secondhand, especially
Yeah,
furniture.
absolutely. There's so many things that you can buy, secondhand items that you can either repaint, redo, change the fabric, whatever it is, and it will be very inexpensive. Another thing that you can save, as Colette mentioned, is in your car insurance. You can be added into your parents' insurance while you're living with them. Or even better, if you are able to work from home, maybe just leave the car altogether. And if you had a payment, you can save that money from payment, gas, and insurance all together
Oh
in
yeah.
savings, right? Instead, maybe you can buy a bike, and if you're going to pick up groceries or something that is not that far away, if it's
Yeah.
possible for you, right?
Of course, yeah, and those are small things, and you might not think that it's going to make a big difference, but if you do these small things, all
Yeah.
for let's say, give yourself a not just a plan, but also a time frame. So if you say, I don't know if I'm able to do this, but try it for a month, try it for 3 months, try it for 6 months, try it for a year, and then you'll know, okay, I have that goal to
And
hit.
the time passes by really quickly. And if
Right,
you're thinking that you're going to stay with your parents for a minimum of 2 years, 2 years is 24 months, and you can save quite a bit. It might not be enough to for a down payment on a house, but at least it'll give you some options, whether you need to buy a car if you're moving a little farther away, and you don't have to put that in debt and have
right,
payments for it. That is fantastic, right? Or
right,
maybe it could be half of the down payment. What if your parents says, you know what, if you have half of the down payment, we'll give you the other half.
right.
That would be like a fantastic scenario. But right now we're living in you have to be a little bit more creative about how to go about. And of course, always the eating out is one thing that you can save. Instead of
Right.
going out twice, you can go once. And just put that money like if you were actually doing it, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, getting takeout is for two people. It could
Yeah.
be $100.
Oh, yeah, very expensive.
$100 a week times 4 weeks. That's $400 a month.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. So really think about that before and that's the hard part too about saying, oh, I have a girlfriend, I have a boyfriend, I want to, treat them or I want to go somewhere. Saving for a holiday too. That's the other thing. So imagine $400 a month. If you just stop yourself from eating out for a couple months, let's say that's $400, $800
Yeah.
in 2 months, you can save for, not the greatest holiday,
Yeah.
but you can,
Well, but it's something. And the thing is,
right.
when you start giving yourself a reward because you did this, then it doesn't feel like you're restricted, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's a very good point. I like that. Yeah.
So,
You
and
don't have
then
to
remember,
restrict
it's you
yourself.
always have to give something in order to get something else that you want more. And that's
Right.
basically how you handle it. So if you remember this, my tips would be to be understand that everything that you do, every choice that you have touches money. It's money in or money out. That's
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Take a look at what it will cost you to actually pay for rent, car insurance on your own, food on your own, and put all these amounts aside. It says, you know what? I'm going to pretend that I'm actually doing it and I have to pay it out. You'll
Right.
be surprised of how much that it is, right?
Well, and yeah, can I say one thing?
Yeah,
One thing that I see young people do all the time, and they are so worried about what other people see. How are they, oh, they're not walking around with a new purse, especially with women.
yeah,
Oh, I don't see them on Instagram saying that they have this new car or they ate out and you can see this beautiful plate of food in this nice restaurant. Don't live your life to compete with the Joneses. If you know that saying,
yeah,
live your life for yourself. Nobody's watching you. Honestly, even though we have Instagram and all that stuff, nobody is watching you. And if they are watching you, who cares what they think?
that's
Do you
right.
know how much is in my bank account? I don't know how much is in your bank account. Do you know what I ate for dinner yesterday? No, I don't know what you ate for dinner. Like, this is the thing that these young people, I don't know why they're so concerned with what other people are thinking. This is your life. If you say, hey, I'm going to be the youngest of my friends to buy a house, isn't that more impressive than what I ate today at the
Yeah,
fancy restaurant?
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I try and tell my kids too. I go, nobody's watching you.
Yeah,
You have your
uh,
own money. You do what you want with your own money. If you buy a
absolutely.
knockoff purse from somewhere, who cares? You wear your shoes for, 3 seasons, who cares? Who cares? And even if those people that you're trying to impress are watching you,
Yeah,
those are not the people that you want to be friends with anyway.
yeah,
Like, that's
absolutely.
not the way to live. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, no, and you know what, you're right. And this is something that is timeless. And I'm telling you this because I'm reading a book from Warren Buffett. I don't know if you know who he
Oh yeah,
is.
of course. Yeah, of
Of
course.
course, right? Everybody knows he's one of the wealthiest men. He has lived in the same house for 30 years. He
That's
has
right.
his house is the equivalent of a less than $250,000 house.
Right.
So, and in one of the phrases, he says that, you know what, trying to impress somebody, it doesn't do anything for you,
Right.
right? You have to look
Only
at what you want to accomplish, not
right.
what you want to pretend you
Right.
are,
Look
right?
at what's the Facebook guy? What's his name?
Which one?
The the guy that owns Facebook.
Oh, Mark Zuckerberg.
Right. What does he wear every day to work?
I
Jeans and a
think jeans.
t-shirt.
Yeah,
Right. He's one of the richest men in the world. Like, why would somebody like that even care about impressing someone
yeah,
the way they dress, what they drive? You can drive a nice car. And this is the thing. My dad taught me this many, many years ago. He says the flashier the person, the less money they have in their account. So, it's really not 100% true, but that's the thing. I grew up in a household where I wasn't out to impress anybody except for myself.
mhm,
And those are the goals that I wanted, and I think I've done pretty good for myself. And I'm proud of myself for how I got to where I am in my age.
yeah,
But it wasn't like a walk in the park. I didn't have a park. I didn't have things handed to me.
of course.
It was hard. It was hard savings. It was hard to raise kids, to not give them every little thing that they wanted. But I knew those toys that are sitting in the garbage now, 5 years, 10
Yeah,
years later, how important, sorry, not garbage, I donate toys all the time. But this is the thing. If I'm looking at my budget every day, I know they never went without. It's not like I was feeding them garbage every day.
yeah,
They had enough. They even told me that as young adults now. They said we never went without anything.
that's
But
great.
the most important thing is the love that you give your children and the education that you give them about finances. It's not out there, right?
Yeah,
Schools
I know.
don't
You know
teach
what? And the
financing.
thing is, now that we have the internet, that everything is out there for you to understand, now people are more confused because now we have the biggest amount of debt there is.
Right.
$1.77 is being spent for every dollar that comes into the home in average. This is horrendous, right?
It
Because
doesn't work
that
out.
is a formula for disaster, right?
Right.
So we have to always go back to the basics. I always, when I work with my clients, it's always very basic. It just, I'm not giving them this, investment that is going to make you rich. And that's another thing that a lot of people think, oh, give me something that is going to, make me get a return of 30, 40%. Well, if I knew it, I wouldn't be talking to you right now,
Right.
right?
I'd be on a beach somewhere.
Exactly.
Well, the one thing too that I remember you also saying to me, and I can see that is something that young people can really pay attention to, is your monthly accounts. So like Netflix, Amazon, all these little $10 here, $10 here, $10 here.
Yeah.
When you get rid of all those little things that you may not even use, like
Yeah.
these are, the memberships that we pay so easily, just like that, because they're online and it's easy to come out of the bank account.
Yeah.
Like, look at those payments every month. Do you really need Amazon every month? And the other thing too is there are two people in this house that have Amazon accounts. Why?
Right. Yeah.
Do we need Amazon Prime? Both of us? No. One of us could, get rid of that and the other one would pay it, or we share one account. So
Yeah.
whenever somebody wants to order something, that's easy. But we don't think about it until it's in our face to say, hey, go get rid of those monthly accounts. You don't need them. You don't need those subscriptions.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many things that you can do for free if you
Right.
are creative, right? Of course, sometimes it takes a little bit more digging. And sometimes like, like Spotify, you have the free account, but it has commercials. So there's a couple things that, you really don't have to have, but it's about
Absolutely.
what you could. So you also need to align of your, your goals. Do I
Exactly.
really need to have this, or can I go without it and maybe have other things instead that are free, that are easy to manage, instead of me
Sure.
paying $10 or $9 or whatever it is, right?
Right. So things like a Netflix account, those are things that you can really save on. If your kids have an account and you have an account, talk to your kids about it and say, listen, there's no need. Even when my daughter was living in another property, you can have up to 3 devices, I believe.
Yeah, I believe it. As long as I think they have to be playing at the same time. If not, then it doesn't matter. So
Right, exactly. Yeah, and even if you upgrade to whatever, I think that one is a little like a few dollars extra. So even if you pay that for an extra person or extra device, really, I mean, for $3 a month to pay the difference. So if your kid pays the difference or even shares it with you,
yeah,
that at least is savings that they're probably going to save at least half of whatever they
of
spend.
course.
Same thing with the Amazon
Yeah,
Prime membership. Like, think about all these memberships that you're paying towards, and you might not have to split them between two people. Why would we have two accounts if everything is coming to the same house? You can have two
right.
separate credit cards on an Amazon account for sure.
Yeah,
So all these
absolutely.
little things. Yeah, so really take a look at your finances yourself, and if you can help your kids along the
Absolutely.
way.
If you already have that as a parent and you want to help your children, but then make them aware of how much it costs. And, as a young adult, say, okay, well, if I'm actually saving $20 a month, let's put that aside
Sure.
instead of, my mom or my parents are helping me with it. There's an extra $20 that I can save. So every little counts.
I have a great tip that I just
Okay.
thought of. So I am not that I'm, this is not a commercial for online banking, but I really like my Tangerine accounts. It's a free account. I can have a savings account. I can have another savings account. I can have, and actually these online banks make it very easy for you to take the money out of one account and put it into another. So if you have an account that says house account and you put it away every month and you physically take it out of that one account, let's say your paycheck account, and you drop it into a savings account that you do not touch, you can physically see the numbers growing and the accounts, the money
Absolutely.
being put away, and you don't touch that account. And
Yeah,
it's
and another thing that I recommend, I use Simply, it basically works similar to Tangerine. And I have an account that is not tied to my bank account. I have two accounts, so my checking account and my savings account is attached, so I can pay with
that you
debit
can
when I
trans-
go out. But
yeah.
I have another account that is not attached to anything. So, but I can transfer into it. So I physically have to do the transfer into one of these two accounts for me to be able to pay. So this is another great way for you to, because you know that you're not touching that money. So it's not accessible with your card.
Right. And there's lots of free accounts too online that you don't physically have to go to a bank, and they're affiliated with the big five banks. So I believe Tangerine is with CIBC. There's also EQ Bank, and there's a few other ones.
Yeah, lots of them. So it doesn't matter. Like, this is not an advertising for any particular bank. You can even do it with the major five banks.
Sure.
It's just about the process of having something that you can put that account. Some people, they decide to have a major bank and then have maybe Tangerine or Simply, and that's where they move their savings, so they don't physically see it in their account. So,
exactly.
There's different techniques depending on how you manage your money, how organized you are, all of those kind of things. But there's a minor things. That is just the concept. So you put that
and
money.
Free bank accounts, then you're saving money.
That's right. Yeah.
Don't pay for those big accounts that are $10 or $20 a month. You're giving them your money to hold on to. Online, there's nothing. There's no payment. So really watch out for those.
That's also another savings as well. So I hope that all of these kind of gave you a little bit of a different perspective. I know that young adults are having different issues that people didn't have 30, 40 years ago, but there's got to be a way. We have to get creative, and most importantly, know how you're spending your money and what it means to you. Really, that's what is more important, and that is not going to change. It was the same 40 years ago, it's the same today, and it's going to be the same thing 50 years from now. So the more you learn to understand the relationship between you and your money, the better off you're going to be. So remember, circumstances and economies change, but the relationship with your money is not. So I hope that helped. And I hope you're on your way to save lots of money, either for a house or for a car or for anything else that comes up in the future for you. So,
yay!
So thank you so much, Colette, for your insights as well.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Yeah, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Have a great week.